Hey, this is Harren with a 2,500 point battle line between my Lizardmen and some Bretonnians, renewing their 5th edition rivalry. So out on the left, I've got 3 Pterodons, 2 units of skirmishers with blowpipes, then I've got a Scarvet with Armor of Fortune and a Great Weapon, and another Scarvet with Dawnstone Sword of Might Charm Shield, Ancient Stegodon with Sharpened Horns, single Salamander, and a big unit of Temple Guard with my Slann, who has every signature spell and channels with 3 dice on a 5-up. And on the far right, I've got 2 more units of skirmishers with blowpipes. And in the right unit, I've got a level 1 on Heavens with a scroll. Big unit of swords behind them. And then I've got a 3rd Scarvet with Armor of Destiny and a Great Weapon. And 3 Ripperdactyls. So on my opponent's side, he's got a big unit of Bowmen, 2 Trebuchets. He's got a big bus of Knights of the Realm with 4 characters. So he's got a level 4 on life. His Paladin BSB, he's got a Combat Support Paladin, and then a Combat Lord. And I don't remember what all their builds were. So, more towards the center, he's got a Grail Relic, 9 Grail Knights full command. And on the far left, he's got 50 Men-at-Arms with a level 2 on Beasts, and 12 Knights Errant with the Errantry Banner. So, going to Lizardmen turn 1, so out on the right, I Vanguard my Ripperdactyl's forward and march him 20 to threaten his trebuchets. So just kind of moving forward here on the right as well. Scarvet's there to either support with his knights or chew up some bowmen as needed. And in the middle, so I'm shifting my blocks to overwhelm the right side of the board. And again, just pushing some chaff forward, see if I can bait out some charges so I can counter his big mega lance. And view towards the left, again, kind of staying back with my heavy hitters and trying to bait out a charge with chaff. Here's a view towards the far left, and an overview of the board after Lizardmen turn 1. So going to Brett turn 1, he does take the bait on the left and charges his Men-at-Arms and Knights Errant into my skirmishers. So more than willing to make that sacrifice for the counter charges it'll give me. And also towards the center, he charges his Mega Bus into my skirmishers here. Again, totally willing to make that sacrifice for a counter charge. Repositions his Grail Knights to try to face towards my Ripperdactyls, and I'll deal with them later. And here's an overview after movement on Brett turn 1. So in his magic phase, he casts Dwellers Below at my Slann's unit, kills a bunch of Temple Guard, but my Slann luckily passes his strength test, so breathe a sigh of relief after that one. And in doing so, he actually miscast and killed 6 Knights of the Realm and put a wound on all of his combat characters, so a decent trade-off for me, I would say. So he also got Shield of Thorns off on that unit. And over here, his bowman opened up on my skirmisher unit with my level 1. And I failed my panic and ran towards the edge of the board. He landed a Treb Rock on my remaining Temple Guard and just crushed them. So, man, my unit is getting worn down so badly before I've even got the fight. His other Treb hits my best Scarbat out on the right. He fails a 4-up ward, and I die. So, man, those Trebs were on fire. Let's see, over combat here on the left. It's Knights Errant and Men-at-Arms kill my skirmishers easily. And towards the center, his Mega Bus also kills my other unit of skirmishers quite easily. And he elects to overrun. And I don't remember right now why he did this, but I believe he thought he'd be able to clip or hit my Temple Guard unit and charge him to try to finish them off. But it wasn't even close, and this gives me a nice double flank charge with both my Source Block and my Temple Guard into his unit. And that's not a good place to be as a Bretonian. So on Lizardmen turn 2, I do make that double flank charge, as you can see. And on the left, take my Ancient Stegodon into the Men-at-Arms, and take 2 Scarvets into the Knights Errant. So they're just going to act as can openers for those Knights. And on the right, Ripperdactyl's going to one of the Trebuchets. So toward the center, my Pterodons really have no target, so they're just kind of flying around, taking a sightseeing tour of Bretonnia. And in the combat on the left, so Ancient Stegodon comes in, kills 6. I actually forgot to do my impact hits here, but 1 combat, and he's stuck on his Steadfast 7. So Scarvet's killed 3 Knights Errant, 1, and he also stuck on his Steadfast 7. And in the main combat in the center, so yeah, his character bus just couldn't handle that kind of abuse coming in, and we beat his unit. I pursued with both, because actually I have to pursue with Predatory Fighter, and ran him down and ended up as you can see him. So just a ton of points off the board. So on the right, Ripperdactyls beat the Trebuchet and run off the board because they're frenzied. And going to Brett turn 2. So his Grail Knights really had nothing to charge, so they swift reform and came down to face my blocks, and you can see them in the combat out on the left. So my Scarvets killed a bunch of Knights Errant again. Beat him, but failed to run him down by like 2 inches each. Ancient Stegodon beat the Men-at-Arms. Actually took a wound this time, but he stuck on his Leadership 7. In hindsight, I should have been directing attacks against his Damsel, because she was the one that was providing these Men-at-Arms with the Leadership 7. And just an overview of the board after Brett turn 2. And going to Lizardmen turn 3, so I charged one of my Scarvets into the Knights Errant that were fleeing, and they ran off the board. Take the other one and put them behind the Men-at-Arms to help in a future combat. In the center, fly my Pterodons over the Grail Relic, kill a couple peasants. So, view toward the center, I reform my blocks to face his oncoming charge. And in my magic phase, put Weisson's Wild Form up on the Saurus, so they're now Strength 5, Toughness 5. And yeah, I think they're more than able to face off against a Grail Knight charge. So also my magic phase, put a Fireball on the Grail Relic again, kill 5 or so more peasants. And after combat on the left, so this time my Ancient Stegodon completely whiffs his attacks. I think he rolls like a 1 on Thunderstomp. He's stubborn on a Cold-Blooded 6, but he fails and runs away from the Men-at-Arms. So, man, this is a consistent theme with Bretonnians. Men-at-Arms always are outperforming Knights. So we're going to Brett turn 3. His Men-at-Arms charge my Ancient Stegodon off the board. His Grail Knights and his Grail Relic coming to the front of my Saurus Warriors, so not too worried about this, especially with Weisson's Wild Form on the Warriors, and I know it can just generate a bunch of combat res by killing the Grail Pilgrims. So his Bowmen pick off a few wounds from my Pterodons, but I pass my panic. And after combat, kill 2 Grail Knights and plenty of Grail Pilgrims, and stick just fine. Looking at Lizardmen turn 4, take my Salamander into the flank of the Grail Knights, and my Temple Guard into the flank of the Grail Relic to finish that off. And on the left, so the jungle's starting to come alive and swarm around these Men-at-Arms to get revenge for killing my Ancient Stegodon. So at the top, so my Ripperdactyls had come back on the board, and they're charging his second Trebuchet now, which they kill, and they overrun into his dice. And this is actually looking at Lizardmen turn 5. So I did manage to destroy his Grail Relic, run down his Grail Knights, and here at the end I charged both my Scarvets into his Men-at-Arms, beat him, and ran him down. And that was the end of the game, where my opponent conceded, because all he had left on the board at this point was 20 Bowmen. So this is a solid game for the Lizardmen. And what I'm going to do now is analyze this game from my opponent's perspective. So I'm not one that likes to give advice in terms of list design or strategies an opponent should use. I think you should be able to play however you want to. But this time I'm going to give my opinion because my opponent asked me to do so. So looking at his list, he's got 3 hard-hitting lances, a couple stubborn units, 2 trebs, and some bowmen. And this game, I think, is a good example of how difficult it can be to deal with a chaff-heavy army when you don't have any chaff yourself. So there's a couple lines of thought in dealing with chaff. So one, you bring a lot of chaff yourself. You can bring some anti-chaff shooting to take out your opponent's chaff, or you kind of do a mix of the two. Unfortunately, Bretonnians only have peasant bowmen in terms of anti-chaff shooting, and they just don't get the job done. So I'm much more in favor of bringing a lot of combat chaff with the Bretonnians. And I think Bretonnians are quite strong, actually, at winning the chaff war, namely through the use of small peg knight units and cheap paladins, 80 points with the lance and shield. So with these elements in your list, you can take down skirmisher units, pterodon units, without having to commit a full lance of knights. And after you win the chaff war, well, you have plenty of redirection left to win the remainder of the battle. So I think maybe if my opponent drops the Grail Relic and the big unit of 22 peasant bowmen, he could fit in a unit of peg knights and probably at least 2 solo paladins after rearranging some points. But having said that, I think my opponent still could have won this game with a few strategy changes. So one, I think when you're running a chaff light list like this, all your units really need to be working close together. So I'd recommend that he really do a solid weighted flank strategy with this list. So he could have put his men-at-arms directly behind the building and then taken all his lances to the left or to the right of that building, depending on how deployment played out. So in this way, he could either fully commit to one side, or he could send all his lances on one side while his men-at-arms pin anybody trying to do an end around to give his lances time to work. I think another idea he really should have taken advantage of was to give himself time to weaken me with his shooting and magic. So he had a significant advantage in this game where he rolled up Dwellers Below and had 2 trebuchets. And we saw just on one turn where he got Dwellers Below off, he landed a Treb Rock on my Temple Guard, and he trebbed off one of my Scarvets, in just one turn, doing a ton of damage. I think instead of rushing up so aggressively like he did, if he had given himself time to weaken me down, it really would have worked to his advantage. So one interesting way he could have done this is by taking his level 4 Prophetess and putting her in either with his men-at-arms or with his Grail Pilgrims. And the good thing about facing Lizardmen is that you don't have to deal with bolt throwers, cannons, stone throwers, so you don't really need a lookout sir. So if the level 4 Prophetess is in with the peasants, she can miscast and just kill peasants instead of expensive knights. And it's still a significant advantage in terms of protecting level 4 because my magic missiles cannot target that level 4 when she's attached to the peasant, even though she doesn't have a lookout sword. So my Fireball, my Searing Doom, my Shem's Burning Gaze would not be able to target that level 4. So it would be kind of a safe way to throw big dice at dwellers and really weaken me down. And I think, if he had taken down my Slan, maybe gotten dwellers off on the Saurus block, then I'm really running out of combat power at that point to be able to deal with his Mega Lance and his Grail Knights. So anyways, that's just my opinion in terms of my opponent's list and some things he could have done to win this game. Anyways, hope you enjoyed it.